Hello, everybody. So I went live a couple minutes early just because I can. Why not? It so it turns out there's been this whole thing going on in the social media sphere where TikTok may or may not be banned. It's been up in arms for a while. But before I get to that, I wanted to talk a little bit about social media in general because it gets a bad rap in some cases, and in other cases it doesn't. I'm not just talking about TikTok. This is more of a general statement. So social media was designed for people to be social, to reconnect with friends, to meet new people, to kind of get your word out there. And it turned into kind of a, in some cases, public square where people like to bully each other and people like to just become keyboard warriors and spread disinformation and whatever. And there's ways now where that's starting to be handled. But I wanted to point out some of the good stuff about social media. And the reason I want to do that as we're still getting close to what the official start time for this should be is I do own a social media company. Full disclosure, I own one called One for All Social that lets you manage different accounts on all the different platforms and do some great things. But before we get to the TikTok thing, let's talk about some of the good stuff social media can do. So it allows you to connect with people you would never have a chance to connect with otherwise. So this is one of my Twitter posts yesterday. I was cleaning out a closet and this is a game I used to play with my dad called Third Reich. You get to play out World War II on a board. And this person right here, Sandy Peterson, replied, and you might go, well, okay, who cares, right? Sandy Peterson replied to you. Well, if you go look at who Sandy Peterson is, actually one of the early creators of Doom. So, am I going to start calling up creators of one of the more popular video games from the 90s and even today? Oh, no, they're not going to take my call, but I can get answers from them on social media. And I've gotten responses from William Shatner. I've gotten responses from very famous authors. I've connected with people I would have never otherwise met. So can be a power for good. The other thing you can do with socials quite often is meet people who are of like mind. So like I was running a poll on Twitter about just for fun. I was rewatching Game of Thrones because binge watching. I ran out of shows. And I wanted to see who people thought was the most evil, and it turns out Ramsey Bolton and Joffrey Baratheon were the two I had picked. I would have thought Joffrey would have done better, but a lot of people in the comments are saying George R. R. Martin, which I thought was kind of cute. All right, not the whole point to why we're here. So the TikTok ban. It turns out in some weird sphere of legalities I don't completely understand. I'm going to add Doug. Hey, Doug, how are you?
Doing all right. It's an interesting morning so far.
Yeah, so Doug works with me at One for All Social. So if you want to say we have a sponsor, it's the company I founded and Doug works for. Um, but we are a social media company, so we track algorithms. We track what's going on with everybody. Are there changes in algorithms and how you get your stuff placed? We track, you name it, we follow it, and we try to keep up with the news. And uh, everybody has been talking lately about this TikTok ban. Well, it was heard before the Supreme Court late last week, I want to say, Thursday or something.
Yeah.
And the ban was supposed to go into effect Sunday. Conveniently, when the law was passed, they said the day before Inauguration Day would be when it takes effect because that way you can blame the next administration. But let's look at this. So President Joe Biden won't enforce a ban on the social media app TikTok, set to take effect the day before he leaves office on Monday. U.S. officials said Thursday, leaving it in the fate of President-elect Donald Trump. Now, interestingly, I didn't real. One of the things that I still don't have my head completely wrapped around on legalities, and Doug, maybe you can help me out. Is we seem to pick and choose which laws we enforce, and some lawyer popped up and told me he's like, yeah, this one actually there was like a 90-day window built in that the president could actually delay it if you read the entire text of the law, which I didn't do because I don't. It's law. It's a law. I'm not going to read it. And if I did, I wouldn't understand it. So, but isn't it weird that we've gotten to a point in this country where we're kind of picking and choosing which laws we're going to enforce and which ones we're not? And can we please stop enforcing IRS laws? So I don't have
to keep in mind the IRS is a private entity that is contracted by the government.
Yeah,
it's presidential. It's presidential. What's the word I'm looking for? Not right, but
extension of powers. I mean,
yeah, or it's his it's presidential pardon rights, so to speak, almost, right?
I don't know. Anyway, So he's doing it. It's something that goes on quite often these days, which I still don't completely understand how it goes on, and we don't have some kind of weird ass blowback somehow. Because then we sort of live in this world where it's like, do laws really matter? You know, it brings up some philosophical questions. But anyway, Congress last year, in a law signed by Biden, required that TikTok's China parent company ByteDance divest the company by January 19th. So now we get to put the law and its potential enforcement up to Trump. The official spoke on condition of anonymity and in order to discuss internal Biden administration thinking. At this point, if you work for the administration, stop the anonymity crap. You're losing your job on Sunday anyway.
Guaranteed.
Give us a name.
Nobody's gonna be allowed to stick around.
So. I want a name. I want to know who leaked. Dang it. I want to know what their position was. I want to know all kinds of stuff. Anyway, Trump, who once called for the ban, he actually wanted it, has since pledged to keep it available in the United States because there's a social media guy whispering in his ear these days. I don't know who that might be, but starts with an E, I think. Yeah,
yeah, he might have some other things to do with social media.
I laughed at there was a news article yesterday about the two presidential candidates, Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, and so which one was elitist and blah, blah, blah. Because, this one had this many billionaires and that one had that many billionaires behind him. I'm like, yeah, but when you get the world's richest guy on your team, you got to stack up a lot more billionaires to get to that one guy. Right? So I was like, who cares? They're both hanging out with rich people that we're not going to hang out with, so it doesn't matter to me. Anyway, now here's another interesting thing I didn't know. TikTok CEO Xiao Zichu is expected to attend Trump's inauguration and be granted prime seating location on the dais as the same to be granted prime seating location on the dais as the president-elect's national security advisor signals that the incoming administration may take steps to keep TikTok from going dark. That's so kind of interesting.
There's money at play here. I mean, let's be real about it. And you know, up through yesterday, a lot of the sentiment, at least that I was hearing through people I work with that are in the industry and people that touch the industry, and just people in general, was, it's gone, it's going away, it's not, TikTok will not be around. And I was thinking about that yesterday, more along the lines of, okay, there are going to be these people in this creator economy that are making money, and it is known TikTok is actually the least paying of any of the social media platforms for creators, for folks that are monetizing their content. But they will all go else. Where are they going to go next? Where are they going to go next? And there are, a lot of young Gen Zs and younger that are really heavy on TikTok, right? And that is where the bulk of their funds are coming from, not just from monetizing the platform, but from sponsorship deals.
Is it really the least paying one? I haven't tracked who pays the most.
It is actually.
But I always found it to be one of the easier ones to gather an audience on for some reason. But you can gather a big audience, but getting paid is tough part.
Mm-hmm. Now that is specifically from funds being paid by the platform for ad dollars. You can make a ton if you have that following, getting the sponsorship deals, right?
Yeah, and I because we own a social platform that's designed to help get you subscribers, right? My accounts have gotten quite large, right? So if you add them all together, I think I'm up over 30,000 on different channels now, and I'm talking about Dungeons and Dragons, my kids, and sci-fi books. Okay, so that's one of the other things I find interesting about social media is people decry people like, oh, it's evil, it's against whatever. But what's interesting to me is anybody can find an audience, right? If you want to talk about something, you can find other people interested in that topic, no matter what it is. Because one time when we were testing our system, I was posting pictures of my mother passed away. For those of you who don't know, my mother passed, both my father and mother gone. So when we were cleaning out my mother's house, my mother collected salt and pepper shakers like they were going to never be seen on this planet again. And she wanted to have all of them because they would be worth something someday. Guess what? They're not. But we tried to sell them 3 or 4 times, and it turned out that, unless you're paying like $1 a piece where it cost me more to ship it and people want free shipping, like it's just not worth it. And I can't bring myself to throw them away. So I got like 250 sets of these things, maybe even 300. And I started taking pictures of them to test our system. And sure enough, people who collect salt and pepper shakers started emailing me saying, oh my God, what can I see the back of that one? Can I see the bottom of that one? So I know who made it and all this other stuff. I'm like, there's actually people who love these things. And I would have never thought, there were people out there that love them. So some of the power to me of social media is you can get those people to answer. Like Doug was talking about before you came on. I posted a picture of a board game that I like to play because I used to play it with my dad. And one of the guys who created Doom answered my post and was like, I wonder if I'm the same age as your dad because I used to play that game. I was like, because I'm, not going to take my phone call if I start calling those guys, but answer to social media post.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a very powerful thing if you want to use it and not get into those street fights that tend to go on social media where people argue back and forth. You just want to find a community that you like to talk to. It's out there. All right. Anyway, back to what we're here for. Incoming National Security Advisor Mike Waltz on Thursday told Fox News channel Fox and Friends that the federal law that could ban TikTok Sunday also allows for an extension as long as a viable deal is on the table. To push the push to save TikTok, much like the move to ban it in the U.S., has crossed partisan lines. And Democrat leader Chuck Schumer said he spoke with Biden on Thursday to advocate for extending the deadline ban for TikTok. It is clear that more time is needed to find an American buyer and not disrupt the lives and livelihoods of millions of Americans. That's the creator economy that is out there. As so many influencers have built up a good network of followers and some have built up millions. I don't think we'd have Jake Paul as Jake Paul without TikTok. Not sure if that's a good or bad thing, but he wouldn't be who he is without TikTok. Anyway, said on the Senate floor, Democrats have tried on Wednesday to pass legislation that would extend the deadline, but Republican Senator Tom Cotton blocked it. Cotton, chair of the Senate Intelligence Committee, said TikTok had ample time to find a buyer. TikTok is a Chinese community spy app that addicts kids, harvests their data, and targets them with harmful, manipulative content and spreads communist propaganda, Cotton said. TikTok CEO is expected to be seated on the dais for inauguration, along with tech billionaires Elon Musk, who's CEO of SpaceX, Meta CEO Zuckerberg, Open CEO Sam Altman, OpenAI CEO Sam Altman's going to be there, Amazon founder Jeff Bezos, according to two people in the matter. The people spoke on condition of anonymity. I want to know a name. Seriously, I want a name. Anyway,
last week they still have to find a job somewhere soon, and if they give up their name and something's changed and they're wrong, then that hurts.
Yeah, I guess. All right, AP Newswire, disclose a name, dang it. Violate that trusted thing. Anyway, last week the Supreme Court heard oral arguments in a legal challenge to the statute brought by TikTok, its China parent-based ByteDance, and users on the app. The justices seem likely to uphold the law, which requires ByteDance to divest TikTok on national security grounds or face a ban in one of its biggest markets, which is the United States. If the Supreme Court comes out with a ruling in favor of the law, President Trump has been very clear. Number one, TikTok is a great platform that many Americans use and has been great for his campaign and getting the message out. But number two, he said he's going to protect their data. He's a deal maker. I don't want to get ahead of our executive orders, but we're going to create the space to put a deal in place. So separately on Wednesday, Pam Bondi, Trump's pick for Attorney General, dodged a question during a Senate hearing on whether she'd uphold a TikTok ban. Trump has reversed his position on the popular app, having tried to ban it during his first term in office over national security concerns. He joined TikTok during his 2024 presidential campaign. And his team used it to connect with young voters, especially male voters, by pushing content that was often macho and aimed at going viral. Well, first off, he's Trump. It always goes viral. He could put out his lunch order and it's going to go viral. He pledged to save TikTok during the campaign and has created the platform with helping him with more youth votes. So that's the article. So looks like it's sticking around. And I want to point out that I looked at it. Biden pretty much had control of Congress and close enough to even control the Senate to get it passed. If you look at it, I want to say Trump has the House, the Senate, and the White House now. So I think it's all Republican up and down. So he's going to get what he wants.
I believe so, yeah.
I think it's going to stick around. So I don't see it going anywhere.
And if that anonymous source is right, that's, very that's very purposeful, putting those folks together seated next to each other.
There are no coincidences in a seating chart of that magnitude, right? When I got married last time, not getting married again, if anybody's curious, I'm not planning on that. But when I got married and you got married, Doug, Wasn't there a seating chart that you were really specific about for your guests?
Well, yeah. I mean, that was for other reasons because you don't put certain people with other people. But yeah, you do put some people with others intentionally, no question, right?
Right. And this is a presidential inauguration. They've thought this matter out, right?
Yeah.
This is not a mistake. Putting this guy with a national security advisor and a bunch of tech billionaires, they're either going to fix the data concerns and leave TikTok alone, or they're going to sell it to one of the guys on the dais who probably has pocket change big enough to buy the thing. Okay, maybe not, but he's the right people are in the room, right? So he pledged. He did say day one he was going to take care of this problem, and it looks like day one he's at least got the group together that's going to go fix it. So I don't know, man. It looks like it's sticking.
I think so. I think so.
So one of the things I'd like to do with my account this year, and Doug, I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. Is everybody kind of complains about social media being evil and causing problems, and it does. It has its challenges in life. And it also has the ability to do good things like connect people that I when Facebook first became big, I reconnected with some people from high school, and I still connect with people that I would never have a chance to connect with otherwise across the platform because we have these similar interests. So what do you think, Doug? Social media, I mean, obviously you work in the industry, so you're going to say it's good, but what good things has it done for you that I might be missing?
I mean, it definitely is that reconnection and keeping a connection with those that you wouldn't have normally kept in touch with over time. I mean, same thing. Facebook for me is basically keeping up with friends and that I haven't seen in years, and still a way to reach out and stay in touch. There is an element of at least the first line of, oh, this is news today. I wouldn't say take everything you read there as the news. And there are, as much as we talk about the negativity of some posts and the haters that like to just jump on a bandwagon too, or stir up stuff to get a following, to create engagement. There are good channels of discourse that occur from people being able to post and discuss. It's when the children, and I don't mean that in terms of age. I mean that in terms of maturity. Enter the room is when things get messed up. But,
so it's interesting you should bring that up, because there's now a couple of ways out there to look at a post and determine whether it's got a positive or negative sentiment. That's actually kind of well known through the large language models. And a couple of the algorithms are starting to downgrade negative sentiment posts. So if you're only posting negativity, it's starting to not give you really good timeline placement. So the platforms are really kind of doing stuff to sort of clean it up, or at least attempt to. And the other thing I think that's genius, and Mark Zuckerberg caught a lot of crap for it, was he got rid of fact checkers, and he's going to go to a community notes version like X uses. So for anybody who's not familiar, what community notes are is if you see a post that's obviously just garbage, like somebody reporting news, like I caught one the other day where it was like, oh, look, aliens have invaded, here's proof. And I'm like, it's not proof, community note it. And, a couple minutes, so you go in and request a community note, and here I can show people how to do it, at least on X. There it is. So let's say I'm not going to do it because this guy's actually a good guy, but you could go in and request community note right there. And what that does is it gets the folks at X to go look at it and say, hey, look, is this garbage? Is this real? And if it's garbage, they'll put a community note at the bottom that says, no, this is really not the case. So it's like I see them every once in a while pop up where it's like somebody's making this crazy claim and it'll be community note. It's like, yeah, that's not actually true. So the fact checkers are gone. And what that community note does is it attaches a note at the bottom of the screen that tells you what the actual truth is rather than what that particular post was saying. So it's sort of like a Wikipedia version of I don't want to say community. It's God, what do they call it on Wikipedia? It's like everybody gets to contribute. It's
community sourced or
community sourced, public sourced, right? So it's massively sourced by the public. So it helps in that it's not one group of people doing the fact checking who may have partisan things on their own. Anybody can go in and request it, and it's going to get community noted by people who are actually familiar with it. So. And that's the way Facebook is going, because what Facebook was doing was taking posts that got reported, or that got picked up by an algorithm and said, oh, the algorithm has decided that one's not going to be, that one's fake. So it's going to hide it. Well, it may not actually be fake, right? So, and then some human would go back and check it. Some human would be like, okay, we're still going to hide it. So really what it did was completely hid that post. This doesn't hide the post, so you still have a chance to be seen, but it does note it that, hey, you're silly. And the other thing that does, I think, is it allows users like you and me and whoever else to pick up which accounts are spreading really shit information, and you can mute, block, get rid of, ignore to your heart's content. So
one of the features I've started using more on Facebook and Instagram is the whole hide reel. When I'm just get sent reels that I just have no, they end up in my feed and they don't have anything to do with anything I've clicked on or looked at before, or at least not from my perspective. But I think the AI is taking keywords and trying to throw other stuff at me, obviously.
Right.
But I'm hoping more and more users are using those functionalities. There you go.
You could not interested in this post, right? Which I actually am, so I'm not going to click it, but it actually says it gives you two options from there. It says show fewer by this user or not relevant. So is it a topic that's not relevant to you, or is it a user that's not relevant to you? And it'll adjust the algorithm pretty fast. So it does it on Instagram's doing it now. Twitter's doing it now. You can do similar things on YouTube. YouTube's really sensible to the sensitive to the thumbs up, thumbs down thing. If you start downvoting certain things, it's going to show you less of that kind of stuff pretty fast.
Honestly, just from user experience, I think YouTube's and X's algorithm is doing a lot better job of getting that content out of your feed than Facebook is. Just my personal experience. So
yeah, well, Facebook's got a different follower model, right? So Facebook, you have this kind of dual consent to actually follow somebody or become friends with somebody. And the others you don't, right? So their algorithm is a little bit different because you've kind of opted in and that person has agreed to be a follower, a friend attached to you. So its follower model is different. So I get why their algorithm is, because it assumes if you agreed and that person agreed that, you actually like each other, which may not be the case. But, just somehow that's the way they go. So their algorithm is different. Everybody's is different. TikTok's is a much different algorithm than anybody else. And it's shockingly different because, like, if I was running a weird, remember, Doug, early on, we were trying to mess around with it. I don't remember if you joined the company or not yet, but it was like, I had two different laptops like next to each other, and we created two different TikTok accounts, one for a male, one for a female. And we did the same searches and it came up with completely different stuff on the search. Because it was
before my time. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. It was like looking at, hey, is it a boy or a girl? And, what might that group want to see? And it kind of makes sense because it's, men and women are different. I know that's shocking to some, but I don't mean to surprise everybody. Boys and girls are different.
We're all right. We're on stream. You're not starting anything. If this was on X, actually, we are on X, aren't we?
We're on X, YouTube, and LinkedIn.
Okay. You might stir up some stuff on X.
If you identify as a woman, yes, whatever. But there are differences in between people who identify as different genders. That's just the way it works.
Mm-hmm.
So, not a shock, right? I identify as a guy who plays way too many role-playing games and reads too many science fiction books. Therefore, my feed is full of role-playing games and science fiction books, with the occasional physics problem thrown in for fun. But anyway, that's all I had today, folks. So TikTok is sticking around, ain't going anywhere. We'll see what happens next week with the divestment. Does it stay a Chinese company, or does it become rolled into Amazon or to X or wherever? But I don't think it'll be. If you look at who might buy it, if I had to place a guess, I don't think it's going to be Meta. Meta's got so many things already. I don't think they would be interested in it, just because they've already got Instagram and Reels. Bezos tried to start a social media thing at one point, and he kind of shut it down. It kind of trickled off. If Musk bought it, I think he'd just be doing it for the users and the content. But I'm not sure he cares enough, to be honest, because he's already got video capabilities. So I don't know. Maybe if there's a buyer on that shelf, it's probably Bezos.
Or maybe they put together some sort of consortium.
Could be.
Something different where they all the parties have some ownership stake in it, and it's under a shell. I mean, it could be. To your point about Musk, he's not buying it for functionality, like you said. He's buying it for users and tapping that market if he goes there, right? Because X is generally 60%, 70% male, and the age range is 30s,
little younger, yeah.
that sort of thing. Generally,
it's in the 30s. It's a little older than TikTok, but like younger than Meta.
So there you go.
But yeah, I don't know. We'll see where it goes next week and in the weeks following. And hey, if you guys have a social media question, bug either of us. And if you try One for All, which is 04a.com, you're going to get an email from Doug. Yes, that first one is an automated email, but it actually does, if you respond to it, actually does go back to Doug. Not like you're not getting thrown into some lump in an overseas call center. So if you want to try us out, it's free for 60 days. We don't ask for a credit card, so it really is free. You're not going to get tagged at the end of it unless you want to. But you will get an email asking you if you want to run a demo, and we'll call in and do a demo without pushy salespeople doing it. It's actually our ops guys. So
happily.
Yep. So join the party. We've got the tools that make you grow. So all right, everybody, we'll see you soon. And stream Doug, stick around for a second if you can.
Sure.
Still